I have been a qualified accountant for around 15 years now, and I've seen the profession go through various changes across the years. Also, as a lecturer in various ACCA and master's programs, I have a unique insight as to the other end of the spectrum. But this is the first time in my life that I feel the profession has reached a tipping point. I probably receive complaints on a daily basis from employers who are unable to source local talent. It's almost become a running joke that some of the largest firms in the world had to resort to giving out freebies to try and attract talent. So are these complaints entirely legitimate? Or is there something deeper being played out here? There's very little data on the number of accountants being produced locally. With the latest article coming in December 2021, which stated that the MIA welcomed 222 new graduates. Besides these accounting graduates that are being produced, and that's a very modest estimate, firms are also scrambling to find graduates in banking and finance, insurance, statistics, engineering, IT, and many other fields. These students number hundreds every year. However, although the data is sparse, I invite you to visit any accounting firm and you will find that all these hundreds of Maltese graduates have vanished. So where did all the Maltese go? I've gone through all the latest transparency reports for the largest firms to try and investigate. I can tell you that there's plenty of boilerplate language and catchy statistics on how many nationalities these firms employed, but none on the percentage of Maltese graduates. In order to tackle a problem, you first have to acknowledge that a problem exists, and then quantify the extent of the problem rather than skirt around it. So my direct question is the accounting profession in crisis? And if so, what can be done to redress the balance? 1. Accounting needs a complete rebranding. I'd like you to think of the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word accountant. Exactly. Just like multinational firms, household brands, and even political parties have rebranded to great success, the same needs to be done with the accounting profession. In reality, an accountant does so much more than accounting. At the very least, we should start referring to ourselves as finance professionals. And even that is an incomplete definition. But it would be a great start along the road to redemption. 2. Less free flights, more action. I make it a yearly habit to participate or visit Freshers' Weeks at university and MCAST. To put it mildly, every year I see Freshers' Week degenerate into more of a circus rather than a careers convention of sorts. Professional accountants who have plied their trade for decades and uphold an international code of ethics are now resorting to giving out free flights and cash prizes in the hope of attracting some talent. Not only this, but firms are going as far down as primary schools. Now you might tell me, okay, wise guy, you come up with all these problems, so what is your solution to this debasing of our profession? Firstly, firms need to come together, either through MIA or government, and truly reach a consensus to uphold a certain professional standard. Together, there are so many ways we can work to make the profession more attractive without resorting to free flights, which are clearly not working anyway. And let's let school children be children for now. 3. An acute shortage of industry professionals in education. Using a theme that's very familiar in Malta, to uproot a tree, you must first tackle its roots. Having witnessed both ends of the conveyor belt of talent, from teaching university and ACCA students to actually employing these people as advisory professionals, it is amply clear that 1. ACCA, university and MCAST do not prepare people for a career in financial advisory or even accounting. 2. It is firms themselves who have to close the significant learning gaps created by the educational system. And this is not fair on them. My solution to this problem is very simple. Get the university or tertiary institutions to employ industry professionals or leaders who have worked in the profession and hand them the reins to bridge these learning gaps. These are people who have an invaluable insight into the needs of the profession, and they must be empowered to handle the future of aspiring accountants. The fate of the profession depends on it. Which leads me to the following point. 4. Pay educators fairly. If I share with you the amount that visiting lecturers at university, MCAST or wherever get paid, you will most certainly laugh at me. But herein lies the heart of the problem. Practitioners are gold dust in educating aspiring finance professionals. They hold the key both in terms of maintaining quality as well as inspiring the youth of today to choose the profession. And this is where the private sector could step in and bridge the gap. Instead of allocating resources on free flights and glitzy marketing campaigns that are getting us nowhere, the private sector could step in and subsidize the measly fees that visiting lecturers are getting paid. Also, until tertiary educators start appointing industry practitioners and remunerating them fairly, our educational system will remain stuck in the doldrums. 5. More open doors, less talk of open doors. Naturally, many of my students end up working with service providers. I cannot tell you how many times ex-students have approached me disappointed that they've been missold an experience by their employer. So they were lured in by leadership, given freebies to sign on the dotted line, promised client-facing work, and ended up never seeing these leaders again, never given client work, or never even mentored. And before anyone jumps on me, a buddy system on paper does not equate to career mentoring. So my advice to firms is this: focus your resources on less aggressive marketing campaigns and adopt a more honest, day-to-day, personal approach to leadership. Remember, word of mouth is still very strong. On this note, although Gen Z was the first generation to be born in the digital age, they still value human interaction. When you get to know them, and you should get to know them as I try and do every day, you will find they're the most open and diverse generation that ever existed. So adapt or die out. And here's a thought. Perhaps you yourself might learn a thing or two from today's generation. So keep your office door open and apply change in practice and not just on paper. 6. Fight misconceptions. The MIA is doing some good work in trying to fight the perception that accounting is boring. I personally don't believe that the problem is the perception that accounting is boring. There are many areas in the accounting profession, particularly in advisory, which are dynamic and interesting. Yet, acute talent shortages still exist there. The crux of the matter, in my view, is that there is a significant expectations gap between what entry-level talent can offer and what is expected from leadership. And given these talent shortages and the rapid pace at which these firms operate, there often is a paradoxical tendency for firms to overburden their top talent with excessive work. By the time firms realize that they've loaded these people with too much work, these high flyers are already burnt out and on their way to quiet quit or really quit. In fact, there's a saying in professional services that the best ones always leave. Again, the solution here is simple. Performance conversations should be ongoing, not annual. To you as a manager or leader, a regular check-in might not be much, but to a staff member, it could mean the world. In fact, one of the most rewarding experiences in my career was this instance when one of my team members was underperforming. Through experience, I knew that these issues tended to boil down to communication or lack of. So I decided to arrange a walking meeting outside the confines of the office to understand what's really been going on. It turns out this person was burnt out from having many small jobs being delegated to him by various partners. So I advised him on the way to go about navigating the situation, took it up with the partners, and we never looked back since. Now my question is, how often do you see this happening at your firm? 7. Skills gaps. Another question I have is, why aren't finance professionals taught proper soft skills? Why aren't we taught how to question, how to debate, how to write reports, how to present, how to communicate effectively? This applies to leaders as well as entry-level graduates. I have 2 master's degrees, a CFA charter, and I learned more about communication by failing on the job and watching YouTube videos such as this one than I did in 20 years of formal education. The irony is, I had so many sleepless nights trying to remember some obscure rule in an IFRS that I could find online anyway. There's so much more I could say about this that this could be episode 1 of a very long series, but something needs to be done urgently or our profession risks becoming irrelevant. If you found this video insightful, it would really help me if you could hit subscribe. Also, feel free to let me have your thoughts.